If you understand the difference between a murder case and a suicide case, then today's topic is no more than just a cup of tea. You will easily understand it. And for that reason, I give you just 2 sentences to begin with, and later we'll come to discuss the main topic. So these 2 sentences. Roy killed a tiger. Very simple sentence. The most common sentence structure. Subject, verb, object. And another sentence is Roy killed himself. So this one is something like a murder case. Roy shoots a tiger. What happens? The tiger is affected and he dies. And in the second sentence, Roy killed himself. What about the action of the verb? It is not just like this. Here, action comes back to Roy. That means Roy kills himself. That is why it is suicidal. So, Roy killed himself, action comes back to the subject. It is something like what we call boomerang. So, welcome back to Language Mantras. This is Basic English session number 53 and we have reflexive pronouns today. What is a reflexive pronoun? Reflexive pronoun is a pronoun that refers back to subject and sometimes any noun in a sentence or in the clause. You can see the face and you understand it like this. Myself, I is the personal pronoun and myself is the reflexive pronoun. So is yourself, myself, yourself. What do you do? My plus self, your plus self, then himself. Take care. It is not his self. Here it is myself, but here it is himself. And then herself, no problem. Oneself, then itself. Always self, 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 self. But in the plural noun, it becomes selves, ourselves, yourselves, themselves. From the very look of these words, you understand them, you recognize them. So we have done the definition part and now we understand or we can recognize reflexive pronouns. Now come to these sentences. Subject is equal to object. That is, subject and object, they are not different items. She forced herself to keep quiet. She may be a little girl, very restless, and doctor ordered her, keep quiet. So the girl tries to keep herself quiet. This is what happened. She forced herself to keep quiet. It is against her nature, but tries to do that. So this she forced herself. She does not force her mother, but she forced herself. That means subject is operating upon the subject. That is what is reflexive pronoun. Now, second sentence. It is said that history repeats itself. So this itself refer back to history and this history is equal to itself. Here she is equal to herself. That is why it is called that reflexive pronouns refer back to the subject. You try to remember reflect and reflection. What happens? Reflect means you see your reflection on the mirror, right? So this is the reflection on the mirror and this is the real person. And if you move away from the mirror, it won't stay there. So it is something like that. I just give this example to make you understand the thing that reflexive pronoun is always an image of the subject. It is not always that you will get this kind of sentence. you may have a different kind of sentence where the object does not belong to the verb. It may belong to preposition also. You see, I cannot cook for myself. I have to take help of others. I cannot cook for myself. So this myself is an object, but not of this verb. It comes within the jurisdiction of this preposition for. That means this for has an object, that is myself. But in spite of that, this myself always refers back to I. Therefore, this is also reflexive pronoun. The students were ashamed of themselves. Maybe the students did something quite unacceptable. And later they realized that they had done something wrong. Now they are ashamed of themselves. This themselves is, of course, the object, but object of this of, not of where. Right? So this way, the object can be an object of preposition, but if it refers back to the subject, here it is the students, and themselves refers back to students. Therefore, it is also reflexive pronouns. Now, sometimes we use reflexive pronouns to add some extra, emphasis on a noun or even a pronoun. Let's see two sentences. I can cook some dishes myself. Maybe my relatives, maybe my friends do not believe it. That's why I try to give an extra emphasis and I say, well, I can cook some dishes myself. You can do the sentence without myself also. Here you cannot do it. I cannot cook for myself. No, you have to use myself there. So you give emphasis on the subject and pronoun. And in the next sentence, some villagers decided to leave the village itself. The emphasis is on the village. The village itself. Maybe there is some, say, communal problem or an epidemic, endemic, whatever. They want to leave the village itself. Suppose you do not like a particular book. Well, you destroy the book itself. Why? So here we use the reflexive pronoun for emphasis on either noun or pronoun. There are only a few verbs in the English language that sometimes go with the reflexive pronouns. Maybe in other languages there are many. Some of them are blame, I blame myself, kill, introduce, I introduce myself to my students introduce themselves to me, or say exert, pride, deceive, absent, present, demean, etc. This is exactly what we have to discuss today. It's very simple. Just you have to see whether the object of a verb is referring back to the subject or not. And another thing, whether the words look like this: myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself, etc. and etc. And another yardstick is that whether it's a murder case or it's a suicide case. We also come to an end of this discussion. Have a nice time. Thank you for joining us. Try learning an extra language.